This is different. What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kicks, and this is the first episode, the zero issue of Comics Are Dope. And as it stands, as I press record, this is an idea for a podcast. And I guess this is like my sort of cold pitch. This is my Shark Tank pitch for another podcast for you to add to your subscription feeds and listen to on a weekly to monthly basis. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't fully know what I would like this to be. And so this is sort of a ground zero development type episode. So if you're listening to this, it's because you're either a member of one of my private communities on Discord or Facebook, or you are one of our channel members. You're an early adopter, so to speak, of my content. And if you're not familiar with me, if you somehow are listening to this before it comes out to the general public, my name's BJ Kicks. You may know me from YouTube, or I guess, most quote unquote popular on YouTube for buying comics, reading them, and reviewing them, all for your viewing pleasure. And I started this YouTube channel about 2 years ago now, November 2020, really as a creative outlet to talk about whatever was interesting to me, which was why I didn't name it anything related to comics. But I was really excited to talk about comics, and comics kind of took over my life as I started this channel and got into the medium more and more. And what's interesting about YouTube is that YouTube is very much a hype machine, meaning it generates hype for things, but it also feeds hype for things. And as that relates to comic books, hype, it can be dangerous. Basically, the things that get attention on YouTube are sensationalized, right? Whether it's speculative content, like which comics are going to be worth $1 million next year, which comics are they going to make a movie about so that you can get rich from something that you bought for $3 and that's living in your basement right now. It's outrageous in the sense of like, hey, look at this really expensive thing that I bought. I know you can't buy one, but come live vicariously through me for a few minutes. And then there's outrage in like the rage baiting culture of politics and the political underbelly of comics and the dark world that's coming to infiltrate comics and get them shut down for good, right? Like, I don't know, this idea that because, I don't know, Power Girls' boobs are smaller than they used to be, that somehow masculinity is being attacked and comics are just destructive and the whole industry has gone mad. And what's unfortunate is I don't really live in any of those above camps. And so when the content that I'd like to make doesn't perform super well on YouTube. And I like the idea of a podcast, an audio only experience. It's stripped down. There's no fancy lighting. There's no colorful tricks in the background. There's nothing here to try to convince you or trick you into believing this is anything better than what it is. And here, my words, my voice have to just live on their own merit. And I love that as a general idea. And I love the idea of bringing that sort of black and white, sort of binary, is this good, is this bad, to the discussion around comic books and leaving all the sensationalism and theatrics somewhere else. And that's where the idea of the Comics Are Dope podcast is stemming from. Now, what I want this to be, besides a no frills comic book experience, is a place where, you put some headphones on or you're driving in the car on the way to work and you can be totally immersed in some great comic book topics. And so some episodes would be just me waxing poetic for 40 minutes about something that I enjoyed. Like, how good was the Eastman and Laird run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Is it cool? Like, is it groundbreaking, really, that Spawn has lasted well over 300 issues? How well does The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller hold up in 2022? Is it still one of the best comic book stories of all time? And is Watchmen overrated, right? Like, these are these are topics that I'd love to discuss. But as this grows, as our footprint grows, I would also love to have other comic book creators or comic book writers and artists in. And I'd love to kind of go, behind or inside the comic studio, so to speak, and say, hey, what was your thought process when you made this? How do you craft story? How do you decide on page layouts? What do you want your career to be remembered for? Especially in this time that we're in now, where it seems like we're losing legends like every other week. Tommy the White Ranger just passed away. So RIP to Jason David Frank, Kevin Conroy, Tim Sale, George Perez, Neil Adams. There are so many legends being lost. And not that I'm supposed to be the savior of the world, but I just want to make sure that when it's all said and done, we have conversations that matter with the people that matter a whole lot to this industry. So I would love to be another voice that can do some in-depth deep dives, that it's not just, hey, tell us about this comic you got coming out, but like, what drives you? What fuels you as a creative? I'd love to have those types of conversations with some of the greats in our medium, in our industry. And then another idea I've got is just, I don't know how great a podcast is when there's only one voice. Yeah, it feels really intimate, but you kind of get tired of listening to one guy ramble for a while. So what I'd like to do is get in some other content creators, whether they're YouTubers or podcasters, and just be like, hey, let's have a discussion about some of the greatest indie titles this year. Some of the stuff that I do on YouTube, but just in a more stripped down, personal, and deep dive exploratory manner. Because you can go so much deeper in a podcast than you can go on YouTube. If my YouTube video is 11 minutes long, that's too long for a lot of people. But I could spend 40 minutes talking to a creator about whatever. And most people that listen to podcasts will listen to it all the way through. So that is the idea behind Comics Are Dope. I'm trying to do things that are fulfilling and not just chase numbers, right? And YouTube very much lends itself to that rat race of, I got to do better than my last video. I got to get more views. I got to get more subscribers. I got to get more likes. And that's cool. There's a place for that. But I think comics just deserves a bit more reverence, a bit more respect than the YouTube platform can really encourage. And so this podcast, this platform, is a place for the diehards, for the true lovers of the medium, the people who thinks comics are dope. And I hope that's you. And before we go, I do want to know from you, though, what you think a new comic book podcast could be like. What would you want to see out of this? I think there's so many comic book podcasts out there, and a lot of times it's just feels like some guys hanging out, and there's a cool aspect to that, but I want to add something to the community with this. And so to do that, I'm going to need help from the community, with you guys telling me what you'd like to see. And hopefully between your ideas and my creative vision, we can come up with something that lasts. So this was issue 0. Your feedback is welcomed and completely desired. So let me know what you think. And hopefully episode 1 comes out soon, sometime in 2023. But thanks for your support. Peace.